My name's Jason Grillo, and it's my pleasure to see you here in our event talking about SPECTRA, the Super Pollutant Education and Transaction Alliance. I'm here with Tyler Marcus, who's been advising me on this, and for the next 10 minutes or so, Tyler and I are going to walk you through our concept of SPECTRA, what it could be, and the consultation period that we are kicking off today so that we can hear from you, the super pollutant community leaders, about what SPECTRA could be and how we can best serve the interests of advancing action on super pollutants. Just to be clear, this next half an hour is going to be recorded. We will share this afterwards. Yes, we are going to share the slides as well. And that should be sent to you in an email shortly afterwards. So with that, I'm going to talk a little bit about the mission of SPECTRA. So SPECTRA aims to be a collaborative organization that unlocks this emergency brake on climate change. Super pollutants have been couched as a way of having immediate climate action. It's an emergency brake that's been on slowing global warming, and we feel that this is a way this organization can galvanize corporate action to arrest the emissions of super pollutants. The slide should be familiar to most of you on the call already, so I'll be brief in walking through it. Non-CO2 greenhouse gases account for almost half of the current warming. The chart on the left is from the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine from a report about a year ago. They are many times more potent than carbon dioxide. Many of the particularly short-lived pollutants have the ability to show immediate impact on climate if we mitigate their emissions. We see that regulatory bodies and also consumers are starting to become gradually more aware of super pollutant burden and what super pollutants action could mean for the climate and for health. So what are super pollutants? How do we define them? What we see here is the taxonomy that Tyler and I devised for how SPECTRA thinks about super pollutants, and two basic groups. One is the SLCPs, short-lived climate pollutants, and that includes methane, black carbon, hydrofluorocarbons, and tropospheric ozone. At the very most, these gases have a residency time in the atmosphere of 15 years, in many cases much, much, much shorter than that. Then there are super pollutants that have longer life in the atmosphere, and those include nitrous oxide and other F gases listed here. So with that in mind, our article of faith is that there are several obstacles to taking action on super pollutants. We believe that corporate sustainability teams are going to be under pressure in the short term, meaning between now and call it 2030, to deploy climate solutions that have more immediate results, and doing so through carbon financing. That said, there are several hindrances that SPECTRA aims to overcome. For one thing, there's uncertainty about what super pollutant activity looks like. The financing structures might not entirely be fit for purpose. There are ways of integrating super pollutant messaging better into things like sustainability reporting and to communicating sustainability commitments. And building on that, there's an absence of a more coherent narrative about the impact of super pollutants and what super pollutant counteracting activities could mean. The solution that we are proposing is to create a community of practice of member companies who want to take action on refrigerants, on HVAC emissions, on waste disposal emissions that occur through their own operations. They're poised to take action, but are not in the game quite yet. The idea is to develop a for one thing, a financing mechanism that would streamline the way that corporates can get access to the technology solutions and the super pollutant credits, noting that credits are the vehicle here. The idea is to get the projects working with the credits as a method of financing. Second is to create thought leadership around how to integrate super pollutants into sustainability plans. And finally, create a voice and narrative that enables leaders on the operational side and also on the sustainability side of companies to take action about super pollutants. The business model that we have in mind, it's going to be member-based. So this means the organization we're envisioning would be supported by membership fees instead of commissions or credit transaction fees. This would come up, and the benefits would be in two general forms that we're thinking about right now. Two forms we're thinking about right now. One is a general knowledge forum where potential carbon financiers or credit buyers, I should say, would learn and exchange some of the best practices that they have in mind with other members. Those would be in things like peer-to-peer working groups, talking like, how does one diligence a project? How does one message about their super pollutant activities? The second forum would be one that we're calling the transaction forum. In that area of activity, member companies would have the option, but not the obligation, to invest in projects through carbon credits. That would grant them access to solution providers. There would be a stream of credits that would be available from suppliers who would present their project to the potential buyers there. And there would be some degree of vetting and diligence that we ourselves would make on this. Member levels, from what we can see, again, would be organized around the size of the company, the maturity of the company, around their knowledge and understanding of super pollutants. What we found is that some of the larger companies are a bit better resourced, and maybe they're looking for a narrative or access to projects, or they have a better grasp of super pollutants. Those are certainly welcome. And also smaller companies, which we'll talk about some of the segments we're going to be targeting in a minute here, where super pollutants are maybe a little less well understood. They might have just one sustainability professional with an array of different projects and in their portfolio of efforts that are ongoing. And finally, suppliers and intermediaries involved. There are many of you on this call, and we'd love to learn from you through the consultation how you would wish to be involved in this.
Jason, if I could just double down on the
Please.
Member level aspect, we feel like that's a pretty important distinction and differentiation here with Spectra. I think sustainability writ large tends to be designed, corporate sustainability tends to be designed for very large cash-rich companies. And we want to embrace the kind of classic maturity model where companies are coming in at different stages, are capable of different things, and have different resources. So I think, and we think that the idea of catering to different capabilities and skills and maturity in this space is quite important.
Great. Thank you, Tyler. So who might prospective members be? For one thing, these are companies with super pollutant emissions burden. So I mentioned the taxonomy of short-lived climate pollutants or other F gases, or nitrous oxide, from their operations. And they would have, say, cold chain refrigerant emissions as well. Again, they might have landfill emissions they need to work with. They might have other ways, they might have other emissions somewhere in their value chain that they wish to address through of super pollutants. In terms of segmentation, we are looking at a couple of different distinct sectors. First are any size food and beverage company around the world, or any company that has an HVAC dependent entity. So this accounts for companies that are, say, in real estate, and they have air conditioning or heating emissions that they want to account for, and also, again, any food and beverage company that has, for instance, landfill emissions that they want to address. That's the first target segment. Second is, to Tyler's point earlier, just based on size, that we're looking at smaller, mid-sized businesses in any industry, not necessarily food and bev, not necessarily real estate or HVAC dependent, but any company around the world that's a smaller, mid-sized business that is scrambling to understand superpollutants. Spectra can be a resource and a forum for them, as I mentioned earlier, to be where they could learn and share their best practices. And finally, just to double down on this point, it's not just sustainability people sustainability teams who we're targeting here. The idea is to get people on the operational side of the business involved in superpollutant activities.
I think that's another point we really want to underline. No good really comes from walls between operations and sustainability, especially in this instance. So if you think about a use case, we want a situation where there's a plant manager or someone in the supplier value chain who's concerned about complying with a superpollutant regulation, or just needing to address it in their emissions, to be as motivated to join the literal calls and sessions as much as the CSO.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tyler. So for timeline, how we're aiming to roll this out. In December, starting now, we're going to begin a consultation period. That's where we can hear from you and others in superpollutants, involved in superpollutants who have an interest in superpollutants, about what Spectra could be. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to provide not just this presentation, but other forms or the web form that will be the channel through which you can offer your comments. We aim to close this by the end of January. February, the idea is to take the comments, analyze them, follow up with you all to dig down and really get to the nub of what would be valuable, refine the organization based on that, and tentatively considering March of 2026 as the hard launch time. So in terms of what this means for here, now, today, the ask is to submit an open comment using the online form. These comments, just to be clear, we would know who you are. But when we aim to share the comments publicly in the interest of transparency, and we will anonymize the nature of your name and your company so that you can feel safe in providing your insights about what Spectra could be. Your comment and our response to that comment, though, will be public. Examples of the kinds of topics we're looking for. What's your current knowledge of superpollutants so that we can learn best what the general landscape looks like? Member benefits. What is the type of service that would be most valuable to you as a potential carbon finance operative, as a buyer of credits, as a supporter of these projects? One. Second, as what would be most valuable to you as as mentioned, an intermediary or supplier? And finally, what is the structure and governance that would work best for Spectra? We are still in the early stages, have not defined a specific entity. Yes, we're spectraclimate.com, and happy to entertain different thoughts about whether this could be a organization that would need, say, fiscal sponsorship by someone, or how this might work in terms of structure and advisory services and governance. So, with that, just to mention that the aim is to have in first year some 10 to 12 charter member companies, with hope to and obviously advancing beyond that as the organization evolves and grows. Also looking for advisory board members, people who wish to guide the development of Spectra as the super pollutant space itself changes. I have if you want to find out more, again, my direct Spectra contact is below, jason@spectraclimate.com. And with that, I just want to say thank you and open up for, oh goodness, for the next 10 or so minutes for any questions you might have and where we can be of best value to you. So thank you. Simon.
Jason, thank you very much indeed for a really, really important initiative. As you know, I run an intermediary business that is currently offering credits that include nitrous oxide destruction, methane abatement, HFC remediation. So you mentioned intermediaries, and one of the benefits of intermediaries is obviously we can bring a range of supply. So what are you thinking in terms of the role that intermediaries can potentially play for Spectra?
Right. So it's a delicate balance, right? Between you don't want to have too many suppliers, you don't want to have too many buyers. What we see right now is that intermediaries will have a role. There's a preference for direct suppliers directly interfacing with buyers, at least at first. And the degree how we integrate the intermediary role into this is something that would love to hear more from you all about as brokers or broker dealers, as marketplaces. Would love to hear from suppliers. Do you prefer to present your project through an intermediary instead of presenting yourself, or from a buyer? Would you, in the transaction form, would you prefer to hear from a broker there, or from a broker dealer there, or would you prefer to hear directly from the project developer? Again, it's as I mentioned, it's a delicate balance, and we are open to a variety of models. The current instinct is to have the suppliers working with or presenting directly to the buyers, and there may be advantages and drawbacks to that we haven't seen yet. So we'd love to learn more. Sure, Rio, go for it.
Hi, Jason.
Hello.
For walking us through everything. Sorry, I'm off camera. I'm a little ill. So I'm here from the Open Carbon Protocol. We're a registry really focused on super pollutant work right now. And I know everything that you've explained is very much focused on kind of the buy side and then the supply side and intermediaries. Where do you kind of see a role for kind of, I guess, everyone else in the market? So registries or kind of other third-party service providers?
Sure. I see them as critical to the ecosystem, to being able to support Spectra going forward. When I look to registries, again, that would be those companies are organizations that we could partner with, that we could that could help us. We could help them to understand best what buyers are looking for, what suppliers are looking for. I see that there lots of space for a series of strategic partnerships between Spectra and registries and MRV providers or other service providers in the space. Yep. Sophie.
Hi, thanks, Jason. I was wondering, is Spectra going to, I mean, the market is not strong at the moment. It's not a big established market. Are you planning to will Spectra run some activities towards targeted industries, whether it's, you know, food, data centers, tire manufacturers that have carbon black or whatever, are you planning to raise awareness, education, and help create the market by contacting directly those industries?
Sure. Again, the more buyers who we can contact, the better. And this is also where I believe intermediaries might also have a role to be able to get the word out to the segments that we talked about earlier. It's yes, food and bev, yes, others. We are thinking about contacting and working with the sustainability offices of those places directly to help educate them. I could see a role where we work with industry trade organizations who are who work with people in the agricultural sector to advance education on super pollutants, or on anywhere in the food and beverage supply chain in particular, or specific segments that emerge from the small mid-sized businesses who in particular are interested. Just noting too that, from looking at eyeballing the SBTI roster of places who have net zero targets verified, there's something like 750 food and bev companies between food and bev processors or staple retailers who have some sort of net zero commitment. So thinking about who those companies would be a really interesting target. Okay. Other questions? We actually have a couple questions for you all, since we've got about 5 minutes left. Curious to learn from you again. What is your what are your impressions of the super pollutant market space? So, Sophie, you mentioned that the space is not yet quite fully developed, or that the market isn't as strong as it needs to be. Just offhand, what are you seeing as the main bottleneck points in super pollutants, so that we can go out and craft something that's going to be a service offering that unlocks?
That wasn't specifically to me, was it?
No, not specifically to you, Sophie, but there's some 30 odd people on the call now. Sure, Simon.
Thank you. So one of the current tailwinds for carbon dioxide removal is the increasing convergence between compliance markets and voluntary markets. So I think one of the challenges, or perhaps better expressed, one of the opportunities for super pollutants is to educate not only buyers and lenders, without whom you won't have a market, but in particular to educate policymakers about the way in which addressing super pollutants can deliver immediate near-term benefits. And so the thing that's lacking is a compliance market for these things into which projects are eligible. So in the same way we're seeing things like direct air capture, BECCS, biochar becoming eligible for emissions trading schemes, there isn't the opportunity currently to put a meaningful amount of super pollutant project-based credits into those markets. So that's something I'd encourage the general group that you mentioned, the general forum, to think about how to advocate for policy support.
Yeah. I mean, there's certainly an educational component. I mean, we're not envisioning, at least immediately in the near term, being a lobbying organization, full stop. However, we could see in the future it could potentially evolve into that. But that said, in the here and now, educating policymakers without an ask would be step forward. So thank you. Wyatt, you unmuted for a second. Did you have something to add or ask?
I was just going to build a little bit off what Simon said and say that I've seen a little bit of early action in the Article 6 markets, like some countries defining their contribution approaches to include certain methane related protocols. And so maybe some early traction in compliance markets that would be a good tailwind to try to get behind.
Absolutely. Noting too that there was some really interesting activity at COP30 surrounding super pollutants as well. A group of 7 countries band together. I should also say that a lot of the information that we're talking about, some more detailed thoughts on Spectra, are going to be in a concept note that, in particular, Tyler and I have been working on, that offers a more refined, detailed description of what our thoughts are. So that will be emailed to you after our session, and so that you can offer comments based on what you see there. Like I said, the slides in this recording will be emailed to you as well. Noting we're also going to put this recording on our website, so we'll be available to the public for people to view if they happen to hit the spectraclimate.com website. With that, I'm happy to stay on for a few minutes after, but noting we are coming up on the scheduled amount of time. Other questions that people might have? Comments, concerns?
I have one quick comment. This is Maura.
Please.
Hey, Jason. Maura, Business
Hey.
Council on Climate Change. My quick thought is that in terms of corporate buyers, this is a really complex time right now for them to do something new, given the GHG protocol updates, SBTI net zero updates, and continued evolution there. So it's a moving space. It's very hard to get executives to do something new. So I would say, as you guys focus in the early days on buyer education, the big focus should be making those talking points really simple for them. You need to put those talking points in the corporate buyer's mouth for their executives, right? Like, it's a changing market, and here's how this is going to protect you. Here's why this is an opportunity. The coming compliance markets, you need to make the case for corporate buyers. Otherwise, they don't have the time to engage. They are very busy and very confused. And so they're just bombarded with SAF investments, removals. What are we doing here? So super pollutants feels new. And I think it is a great unlock. You just need to really do a lot of front end education and give them the talking points in 5 talking points. So that's my request.
And that's the idea behind when I say we talk about crafting narrative. It's not just external narrative for, hey world, we just did this thing that mitigates super pollutants. It's the internal conversation with the CFO, CEO of how can you message internally within your sustainability team to make things happen. So Spectra exists to accelerate, streamline activities in super pollutants. That's where we see this happening, and we think it's a business model innovation. Yes, we want to unlock the technical innovation that's potentially underlying all these great projects that have sprung up, and yes, we want to be able to deploy. And business model innovation is a way to make those types of projects, both more on the innovative side, more on the deployment side, happen. So thank you for that, Maura. Like I said, we're now officially after time. I'm willing to stay on for as long as people want to hang around here. But I wanted to say once again, thank you for spending 30 minutes with us today, and look forward to hearing your comments, hearing what you have to say. I'm going to stop the recording momentarily so you can have more. We can even have more off the cuff thoughts and sentiments and insights, and we can go from there. But thank you, everyone, and you'll be hearing from us shortly. Have a great day.